What about the Freddy P trade? The Freddy P trade. Now you wrote about how I think it was the Padres, Rangers, Astros to an extent, and the Twins. I think I'm missing a team that were all in varying degrees. Can you rank those varying degrees? Not in a sense of like you know exactly who wanted them the most, but in the sense of like what teams had enough to get the Brewers' piqued interest, considering they got Jet Williams and they got Brandon Sproat for Freddie P.
Well, there are other teams in the mix as well, and we had written about them previously. The Red Sox, the Yankees, the Giants, and the Mets ultimately met the price where other teams did not. Now, I would not have seen the Minnesota Twins being involved at this level when they're not really going to be that competitive this year. They're doing well, I think, to hold their team together and not trade any of their big pieces, but I would have been surprised to see them take on a rental like Freddy Peralta. The Rangers obviously were in the starting pitching market as we see now, and I could see where they were thinking along the same lines as they were with Gore. Let's get a guy to help us win and help us win in 2026. The Padres are always lurking on every available player. They're always on every available player. And yes, they too need starting pitching, but their system is a little bit down from where it was earlier. Now, AJ Preller always finds players and comes up with others to trade. So I expect that he could figure it out. But again, I don't know that they were going to be at the top of the line here, with the Mets seemingly were the most persistent, and the most persistent for a reason. They've got money, they've got prospects, and they have the ability also to extend Freddie Peralta if indeed this works out well for them.
All right, TV uncertainty is the next topic that we're going to talk about because the Reds are one of the teams that we're not 100% sure. A few months ago, they did offer Kyle Schwarber quite a bit of money, and the TV uncertainty to me feels like a crutch. While a legitimate crutch, it feels like a crutch that you're leaning on this season with the uncertainty not to be resolved for another 3 years, if I'm correct, right? So how long is this going to be something that we can have teams constantly lean on like the Reds?
Well, the uncertainty is not going to last 3 years. They're going to figure this out in probably short order. Now, granted, the national television contracts come up in 3 years, and then what Manfred has talked about doing as commissioner is hopefully getting them all under one umbrella, the local teams' contracts. And Major League Baseball has gone a long way toward doing that. And perhaps the Reds and some of the other teams, there are 9 of them in all, that have been associated with Main Street as a company, they will end up under MLB's umbrella. I'm sure some of them will, some of them may do things on their own. So that's the position the Reds are in. Now, is it a crutch? I guess you can interpret it that way, but Schwarber from the start was always going to be an exception for them. There was money for Kyle Schwarber that was not money that they were just going to redistribute if they did not sign him. And the reason for that is that Kyle Schwarber is from Middletown, Ohio. He's a guy they felt would sell tickets and really make a financial difference for them. Others that they're interested in, whether it's Eugenio Suarez, Miguel Andujar, Austin Hayes, whichever hitter you might pick, they're not the same level of performer as Kyle Schwarber, and they certainly didn't bring that box office element. So, is it an excuse? Yeah, I guess you can say it's an excuse, but if the front office had the money available, they would spend it. They don't have it available, it seems to me.
What are you hearing about Max Scherzer? Does a guy who pitched really well in pivotal games in the World Series need to be a guy that possibly would go on a Roger Clemens type of deal where he starts 20 games, but he only starts in June for a team? Like, is that something that is a max choice, or is that something that seems to be more of a baseball choice?
It's more a market choice. And I spoke with Max yesterday, and he emphasized to me that he's ready to go right now. Been training all winter, he's healthy. If the right team calls, and there are only a number of teams that he's interested in, a certain number, then yeah, he'll sign up tomorrow. The right call with the right offer. But if that doesn't happen, if one of his preferred teams does not see a spot for him right now, he is willing to wait until after the season starts to sign then, knowing that injuries will occur, guys won't perform the way teams think. There's always a need for a starting pitcher in May and June, even before that. So that's how he's playing this, and he can afford to be choosy both in a financial sense and in a playing career sense, and that's where he is. So I would not be surprised if he signed tomorrow, and I would not be surprised if he didn't sign until sometime in May. He has those options available to him, or at least he thinks he will later, and that's how he's going to play this. And at his age, with what he's accomplished, I can see the logic.
Hey, Ken, last one for you. And I know it's a loaded question. We don't have to get into all of the details, but your colleague Evan Drellick's article about how someone who's in on the owner talk said the final straw was Kyle Tucker. Now we are going lockout no matter what. I guess, hey, we might never have baseball again after this coming season, so we should enjoy it. But just curious to get your thoughts. To me, like at this point, yes, we're definitely going to talk about this over the next year, but I'm kind of getting sick of like, this is the ultimate solution. Look at the NFL, AFC Championship game, past 15 years, Chiefs or Patriots. That went viral last night until someone was forced to take it down. Anyway, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, what Evan wrote was that the Tucker thing is what's going to trigger a salary cap offer from the owners. The lockout was inevitable well before Kyle Tucker. The owners pushing a salary cap was inevitable well before Kyle Tucker. Now, we can debate, and we will be debating for the next, I don't know, 11 months or so, the value of a cap versus tweaking the current system. And that's a debate that fans are eager to have. According to Major League Baseball, it's a debate the owners are certainly willing to have and enjoy talking about. The players want no part of a cap. And in my view, I'm going to be consistent with this. I believe that this sport can function quite well with tweaks and maybe major tweaks to the current system. There are things you can do to not eliminate the revenue disparity. That's never going to happen, but to lessen the impact of that revenue disparity. And there's various forms and levers you can pull to help that along. You talk about a salary cap, well, it comes with a salary floor. The two things are intertwined. And we all know a floor would be good for the game in the eyes of many because it would force some of these teams to actually spend their revenue sharing money. But I don't even know that that's necessary if you do some other things to kind of juice this along. So it's a worthy debate whether a salary cap would be good for the sport or not. I can understand the debate, but the other factor here is if the owners seek to impose a salary cap, we're likely going to have maybe a long work stoppage. Maybe we lose part or all of 2027. I don't believe it's going to come to that. I don't believe the owners are dumb enough, honestly, to lose a whole season or even a major part of a season when you're in a position right now as healthy as the sport has been in quite some time. Quite some time. So you want to play that game? Go play that game, see how that fares with your franchise values. But to get back to the fan question, and the question of revenue disparity, yes, that is a problem. It is a problem that needs to be addressed. I would just argue and will argue that it does not need to be addressed through a salary cap. You can do it in other ways.